Hey there, and welcome to the Business of Business podcast. Here we are two daughters and their dad, seeking to inspire and educate you to follow your dreams of being in business by teaching you the business of being in business. The good, the bad, the humor are all parts of our unique perspective as an entrepreneurial family. Thanks for joining us. So grab a coffee, turn up the volume. Here we go. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Business of Business podcast, Two Daughters and Their Dad. I am your host, Staci Joy Dempsey, and that J is super important because it's what brings the joy. I have with me, thankfully, once again, the dad, Jack, and the other daughter, Jennifer Faith. Good morning to both of you. How's everybody feeling today?
Awesome.
I feel great.
Awesome.
It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful day. It's Jack's oldest daughter's birthday. How about it?
Yep.
He became the dad.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I won't say how many years ago that is, but I will say that now that some of my kids are older, I really do enjoy taking their birthday gift and investing it into their kids' college savings plan. I'm enjoying that immensely.
Well, and you know what? I'm happy to say that I am one of those older kids that also enjoys you taking that money and putting it in to my kids' education funds. So we're on the same page. So today we are kind of, in a way, we've hit a milestone. And so we are going to be wrapping up our season 1 of our podcast. So, we are excited to do so. We're super thankful that, hard to believe that we're even at this point, because not that long ago, we were just talking about this podcast as a notion, and here we are wrapping up season 1. So we thought that it would be helpful to maybe kind of recap what we have, what our experience has been in this podcast, what we've learned, how we think we have grown. So let me start by asking both of you, how do you think you guys have grown doing this podcast?
Well, for me, it's been just a great experience, really thinking through the business of, and, as we've said before, I mean, the whole genesis of this podcast really was born out of, working with Jennifer in her business and realizing that the challenges and the opportunities and all the things that she's facing as an entrepreneur in the beauty business, the hair business, is the same challenges that I'm facing in my business in many cases. But even though I'm doing investments, doing insurance, there's a different output for our businesses, but the business side, was just so many common denominators. And so, kind of taking this idea of the business of, and then converting it into a podcast, I mean, that in itself, and doing it with my two daughters, has just been a great experience. And I've always said that anytime you decide that you want to provide something for others in any particular area, want to share your experiences. It always seems like you go into it with the idea that you're going to be sharing things, to help others. But at the end of the day, you find that you're benefiting yourself even more than maybe what you're benefiting others, because the idea, just the act of doing the podcast, it keeps your mind thinking about things. It keeps you, wanting to get and hear and share ideas with others. And it just ends up having your own self-improvement, self-development, and then being able to implement things in my business. So it's just been a great experience, and it's really, I just feel a lot stronger as a business person because of the podcast.
Yeah, for me, just looking back on the journey that we've been on when it comes to this podcast, it's been very exciting to see the growth just from the beginning, when it was just a conversation of what if and how do we do this, to where we are today. And I think that alone just grows you as a person to push you to new potentials that you didn't think that you had. I know when I go back and listen to our podcasts that we put out, I still am always taking something away that maybe I didn't hear the first time when we were actually doing the podcast. And it's just very exciting. Every time I listen to the podcast, I guess you can call me a entrepreneur nerd or a business nerd, because business all the way around just always gets me excited and gets my brain going on how we can do things better. And especially the guests, the guests have given me ideas within my own business and really pushed the limits, like, wow, they're doing that. I'm a little behind. I need to catch up here. So just feeding off of everyone's energy, ready just to improve and make it better, and hopefully keep touching entrepreneurs in different ways and inspiring them to keep going in their own businesses.
See there, I said to Jennifer when she used to come to me crying that all of her friends called her a nerd. And I said, you know what? You just let them call you a nerd, because someday, you're going to be thankful that you got labeled a nerd. And now, see, today, she just called herself a business entrepreneur nerd.
Well, there's something off when you rather be in your business than at a party. Come on. That's like, I'm like, no, color got spilled on the wall. I got to paint the salon a little bit tomorrow, so I can't make it.
I got you right where I want you. Now, I want to just add to that the guest part too. I think, talking, again, they've provided such good insights, but I think one of the things that this podcast, having the guests on the podcast, it just really has confirmed to me that this podcast is important, because every time we've approached, the entrepreneur about doing the podcast, they just were just like, yeah, not only yes to participate, but yes, you're absolutely right. There is a business side of things that people just dramatically underestimate how challenging that is. So I think that confirmation from our guests has been something that I've really appreciated.
And I have to agree with you. When we first started out having this conversation before the podcast even happened, having the guest proves that you were right, Dad. Entrepreneurs do need this and need help, because look at our guests. Everyone is passionate about something, about hair, about baking, about cooking, real estate, insurance agent. The business side of it could almost break you into not being passionate anymore, because that's how hard it can get sometimes. So I think we need each other.
Yeah, definitely having the guests on, I think, not only solidified for us, but I believe that it also solidified for them that the things that they were being challenged in their business about, when we shared how a prior guest had maybe said the same thing or had solved that same problem, I think it also solidified to the guests as well that the business of doing business is pretty universal. And so although the business is very different of what they're actually doing, how to go about actually being in their business was very much the same. So so I agree with both of you on everything that you both just said. So let's talk about what have been some common themes that we've kind of unraveled or unturned here in the podcast. One specific one that comes to mind is how people go about getting money for their business. How maybe the notion of you have to go out there and get the huge loan, if you got to sell it to the big bank. I feel like that may be the misconception that people have. But I think one of the common themes that we have seen through our guests, obviously the experience that Jack and Jennifer have had together, was that most of our guests, if not all of them, they didn't have to go to the great big bank to get a great big loan and go into major debt. They found ways to be creative. Number one, just saving money, working that, the job that they know they don't want to stay at forever, saving their money and living lean. I think that was definitely a common theme that sticks out.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the other thing that we heard quite a bit was, that once they really grabbed hold of their vision and mission for their business, they were able to bring some investors in, people who said, you know what, it's a great business plan. You certainly have a lot of passion. You have a clear vision. yeah, I'm willing to invest some money in your business, And I think the other thing our guests told us that they underestimated was how much they had to reinvest. That there's a reinvestment back in your business you have to make on a continuous basis. And, so understanding that even once you get your business off the ground and you start getting into some cash flow, well, there's going to be a lot of reinvestment that has to go back in to your business to continue to grow your business and continue to take it to the necessary levels that you want to. So, and I think that was pretty common, that they realized that it takes a lot of money to start a business sometimes, but it takes a lot of money to continue to grow the business.
I think what I found, in common with all of our entrepreneurs is how do you market your business? And time again that we're talking about social media and having a presence on social media and how important it is. And I know I've said it before, if you are not on social media promoting your business, then you're just getting left behind. So how important it is to market your business on social media means everything, especially today.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to, Misty Devour, and she had a great interview with her, but, just that importance of social media and connecting with people. I think starting with, everybody, had built some kind of following through social media in their business. And then through that came referrals and, but there's no, even our last guest, Amarildo, who realized that you have to really connect on that social media. And the great thing about social media is that, and it's one of the reasons why I think entrepreneurship is going to just continue to grow, is that the startup costs, technology has really driven down the startup costs for businesses. Where, not that many years ago, you would have needed a much bigger advertising budget to get your business out there because of just the cost of the different types of way to promote. But social media, technology, that has just driven the cost down to where you can literally promote your business for pennies compared to what once was thousands of dollars cost wise. So you're definitely seeing where there's more and more recognition of that needs to be done. I think there's a lot more now on, how to do that. I think that's going to be the next thing. How do you continue to promote yourself and not get kind of lost in now the this cascade of social media that's coming at people all the time. So I think those would be some interesting topics to delve into in season 2.
Absolutely. And on the piece of marketing, what I think it's also important to point out is that, of course, now when we think about marketing, we think about, social media immediately. But, what I find also interesting through almost all of our guests, if not every single one, is that they also did some type of out of the box or traditional marketing where, Amarillo said, he would show up at 4 or 5 in the morning and hand out flyers. I know when you guys started the studio, you walked across the street and handed out little cards and flyers to people coming out of the grocery store. Daphne, she's basically constantly marketing to you, Jack, because you have those wine glasses, right? I believe it's wine glasses that every time, you use them or see them, she's at the top of your mind as far as being able to give a referral because of the, out of the box gift that she gave to you and Lisa. And so, and even Misty, the way that she takes orders on for her business, yes, she points you to her website, but you can respond to a post on her Facebook of what you want her order to be, and she will accept that. And what's neat is that, people see that, right? People see that, wow, something must be pretty good over there at Devour, because right on some Facebook comments, people are placing their orders. And so, there's some traditional but also out of the box ways of marketing that people are doing. And so I think that was an interesting theme that at least I picked up on doing the podcast. So, so what are some other things that have kind of stood out to the two of you while we've been talking with guests, or even, when we're doing, podcast sessions where it's just the three of us?
I think a big one is, especially with our guests, especially with our stories, everyone has a vision or has a dream, but along with that comes hardship or some kind of challenge that they've had to overcome. And I think that that's what makes or break an entrepreneur, because the challenges are going to come, right? The hardships are going to come, and they're going to come at a point where you question, what am I even doing this for? I love when our guests come on and they really dive into those hardships that really could have easily made them say, never mind, this is too much. Like, I'm not going to do that. But they didn't. And I think Misty said it from Devour. I know I had the quote written down for a long time. And she said something, is this a gas pedal moment or pump the brake moment? And that has stuck with me so hard, because I have plenty of those moments in my everyday life, and especially in businesses. Is this a challenge that's really going to stop me in my tracks here, or is this a challenge that we can, take, learn from, adjust, and move forward, and the next challenge might be a little bit easier because we were able to do that. So sometimes people look at entrepreneurship like the American dream, and yet one little
hearing, really where people were at, for example, Daphne, who, in her business in the, remodeling, furniture restoration. I mean, something that she kind of had a strong background in, and was doing it part-time, kind of out of more of a just something she wanted to do, not maybe a little more in a hobby, but not a full-blown business. But then, she shared about, getting divorced, and now so to speak to your point, it was, all of a sudden she realized, okay, this is going to have to be something that's going to have to provide for me and for my family. And so, I just find that to be, again, those moments in people's lives where, they could recoil back and say, woe is me, or they could say, hey, you know what, I have something here that I can now take to another level to help me, walk through, this, really difficult time in my life. And so I just find, again, we've just heard that from, our guests, where there've just been challenges that they've had to overcome. And then in the midst of that, they learned, that perseverance point, to where then when challenges came in their business, they built perseverance. They were able to get through those things. So, and that's a big part of being an entrepreneur, because there will be challenges. There's not going to be any doubt about it. You can have the best business plan, you can have the best vision statement, you can kind of have everything lined up, but there's going to be something, that happens that knocks you off your game, and you're going to have to, be able to know that and figure out how to get things back on track. So perseverance is a big part of being an entrepreneur.
Well, and the other common theme that comes to mind is that everyone started their business at what would most likely be considered not the best time to do it, right? So, Jennifer started her studio after not being able to do hair for 6 months because of, the contractual liability that she had with the salon that she worked at before. Jack started a business, moving away from everyone that he knew, with 2 kids and 2 on the way. I think about Colby, where, it was, he went to school, he loved cutting hair, but he's a young guy, right? He's a young guy trying to start a business, um, with no experience and really nobody to mentor him, in any true traditional fashion. Misty decided to start her business after she did not get that commission check that she was very much under the impression that she was going to be getting. Daphne starting a business, coming out of getting ready to be, getting a divorce. And so, there's definitely the common theme of, these businesses were started and are thriving off of times where it was not the best, not under the best circumstances. And that's what I think that anybody starting a business thinks that, well, if I just get to this point, or if I can just get this accomplished, or if I can, there's always going to be something. But it's a true testament of entrepreneurship, I think, to look at people that are out here working hard in their business every day, that started these businesses not under the best circumstance. And the common theme that nobody saw coming, including us when we started the podcast, was COVID-19.
Yeah.
Right? So, talk about a blind side for whether you're in business, you're working for someone, like for the world. Talk about challenge, just pretty much indescribable, that everyone in the world has faced the last 6 months, and that's COVID-19. So what kind of pops out to the two of you, as we started talking to people that, are our guests, and for the two of you that, living and breathing, trying to have a business survive during COVID-19?
Before we get to that, though, you mentioned on one of the guests, and I think this was another common theme, was the majority of them anyway had either a mentor or people in their life that could speak into helping them with their business. And so I would really, for those out there who are listening and either new in business or thinking about going into business, I think that's a really critical piece, is to try to find that person who has some experience that can be your mentor, that you can bounce questions off of, that can bring a dose of reality into your world, because there's no doubt that, I know, again, Misty talked about that, having someone that that was really helpful and still helpful. Daphne having a group of business owners, I think through the chamber, I believe it was, who were able to do that. So again, I just think that that's a critical piece, that to be able to try to do that if you can in your business. As far as COVID-19, I think the one word that jumps out at me now when I hear COVID-19 is innovation. I just love seeing the innovation that's happening out there by business owners, trying to get their businesses back open, get it running. I'm driving around. The most prominent out there are your restaurants and what they're trying to do to, to keep business going in this very difficult situation. But you just see it. You're beginning to see more and more things happening on television advertising for businesses, and how they've made changes to their business model in order to continue to promote business. It really has pushed, I think, a lot of people out of their comfort zone, which in some ways needed to happen. They knew they needed to make some changes in their business, but couldn't figure out how to slow it up enough in order to make those changes. And then COVID came and forced them into that slowdown. I think it's really just going to make business even that much stronger in the long run. I mean, it was a hefty price to pay for that, but I think there's going to be a lot of great innovations that come out of it long term.
Yeah, COVID, the first thing that comes to mind is scared. I was like, I know I have most definitely not seen a hardship or challenge within business like this before, or to expect something like this. And, you're right, Dad, and we talked about it, but to circle back is at least for me, first comes the breakdown. then comes the, all right, let's lift ourselves back up. But talk about wanting to throw the towel in early. That was me. But you're right. And I think that what we've heard with our listeners is COVID-19 happened and we had to fix it and fix it fast and figure it out fast. And we obviously did that with inside my business. A lot of people have done that. And coming out on the other side of it has only made businesses stronger, come up with new ways and new technology and new formats and new systems, and has truly built a stronger business. I know, at least for me on our side. So as much as COVID-19 is scary, right? I know in New Jersey, gyms and indoor dining just reopened, and I'm happy to see it. I think it should have happened a while ago because, again, just like we talked about, COVID-19 is not going anywhere, and it's not going anywhere this time soon. So allow businesses to reopen, figure out how to do it safely, and try and support these businesses as best as we can because, I know California salons, they just reopened. They were outside in alleys doing haircuts. I mean, you want to talk about people working hard for their families. Thankfully, I didn't have to be in the outback alleyway, but that's just what people had to do. So I am happy to see that everything is back open. And again, giving businesses the opportunity to figure out how to make it work. Because that's what entrepreneurship is all about, right? We've heard that with our guests too. Why do you want to be an entrepreneur? Freedom, freedom, freedom. And COVID-19 completely took a lot of freedom away from business owners. So to give that back to them, I think is what needed to happen and happened a long time ago.
I think another thing that that we heard is margin. Once you get your business opened up, building some margin, meaning having some money off to the side that you're able to fall back on if you need to. Now, one of the nice things about Jennifer and what she did so well is she built margin. Now, there was some government programs that I think were great, the PPP and all that, was great, but Jennifer would have survived this without that. That was very helpful, and it made her come back stronger. But if you don't have margin, you're not going to weather the storms. And there was a lot of businesses we've talked about, even hair salons, that even with the government programs weren't able to survive. And that's just began because they had no margin. And so, having that margin, building that in, just like you should in your personal finances, you should have, 3 to 6 months or 6 to 9 months of margin, in your savings to pay bills in case there's no money coming in the door. And it's the same with business. And so one of the things that I think business owners and entrepreneurs need to understand is it's just as important to have that. So you can't either be taking all your money and either putting it back into the business and or taking a lot of it and putting it all into your lifestyle so that at the end of the month there's nothing left to put into a side account to be in that position to weather the storm. This, you had the 08-09 recession that set a lot of businesses back, and then you've had COVID-19. So we've had two events in the past decade, basically, that if we haven't learned at the personal level, at the business level, the importance of margin and having some money set aside, I don't know what else can happen to open people's eyes. Easier said than done, I get that. But even if it's just, a little bit of your business revenue every week, every month, set it aside, so that you have it in case, you just the unexpected. And COVID-19, the definition of unexpected.
Talking about build margin, how do you do that? And I think that's what people want to know is how do you do that? Take your finances. How much money are you going to put aside a month, a week, every 2 weeks, whatever that looks like for you? And I tell people all the time, when it comes to your personal finances, even if it's $20 a week, you're putting into your savings. The key is you have to forget about it, right? People are like, oh, I got a savings account. I got $5,000 in my savings account. Why are we even talking about it? Because it should have been long gone out of your mind. You actually don't have $5,000, right? Until we actually really, really need it. So it comes to the same point in business. Whatever that looks like, $1,000 a month, $1,500, you're putting that into a savings account and you pretend you no longer have it because it's very easy. And I catch myself doing it once in a while. Like, I really like this new Michael Kors purse. I got some money in my savings account. Oh, wait, I forgot I don't have it in my savings account. So that is a key that really helps me is you think you got $10,000 in the bank, but you don't because it's not yours. So that's the important part about building it. Is building it, but forgetting about it. Not every time we want a little lifestyle, every time we want new furniture in our business, we're dipping into that. That's another thing. You want to upgrade something in your business. Like for me, I want a new front desk. It's going to be $4,000. Now I got this savings account. I'm not looking to pull it out of my savings account. We're going to build a different account just for this upgraded furniture in the salon. That's not coming from the savings account. You want something new in your business, in your life, save just for that and pay cash for that. You can't be dipping into your savings account. That's not how it grows that way.
Okay, so the pastoral team right now, Jack and Jennifer, they are preaching from the pulpit. Okay, so I'm going to just pause you guys on that because I think that might be our next actual podcast that we do. Because I can feel the message coming through Zoom, and I want to make sure that we capture that. But I also want to make sure that this particular session, we make sure that we get. I definitely want to ask you guys this question, so that we can give our feedback and wrap this up and move on to the new gospel of the business podcast. And so my question is let's just revisit why we even started this, why we even decided to do it. And so I know that it was birthed out of realizing, once the two of you guys came together as a business partnership, the similarities of, of the challenges that you face in your business. But, outside of that, why are we really doing this? And why are we going to move into season 2 of this podcast?
Well, for me, I think that, I've said it on several of the podcasts, I think that maybe misconception, that a lot of people have is that entrepreneurship is very risky. And I just think that we're heading into a time that is actually going to get flipped, that going out and getting, the 9-to-5 job or the job in corporate America, where, you're getting that steady paycheck. And I know there's going to be some that's the right thing, but if you're doing it that way because you think, that's the safest way to go, I believe, you're wrong. We have examples all around us of people who have lost their jobs, and very good jobs, because of the economy, because of COVID-19, because of the Great Recession, because companies merged, companies downsized, companies got bought out. And I see it all around. And I think that, and on top of that, I think that, technology is going to change so many positions out there. And I mean, it's one of the things that, that I think is going to come out of COVID-19, quite frankly. I mean, just take one area like banking. I mean, I think this is going to completely change banking to the point where I don't see where you're going to need branch banks like you once did. You're already seeing them close up, right? I mean, you're already starting to see these abandoned branch bank buildings. Because again, I mean, you can do everything on your phone. And I was hesitant on that just because I guess of where I'm at in my life cycle. I still like to go into the bank and depositing a check but now I couldn't do it, or it was a pain in the neck. So guess what? They kept telling me to download the app, and I finally did. I'm thinking, I was an idiot. This is the easiest thing to do in the world. I can write a check, take a picture of it, and deposit in the account. I don't have to drive anywhere. I don't have to set in a line. So my point being is that, but there's going to be some fallout from that. There's going to be people, because when I walked into that bank, there were 6 or 7 people working in that branch bank doing something. They were never very busy, but they were sitting there. Well, there's going to be job loss in that. My point is that, that seemed like a safe route to go. But in the end, they're probably going to be looking for another job. So entrepreneurship does give, there's some risk involved, but I think long term, having your own business where you're in control of your own destiny is going to be the safest way to go. So the goal of, the business of business is to help those people. It's to help people understand, the business side of whatever they're going to be doing, and hopefully learn from other entrepreneurs and not have to make those same mistakes.
Why did we start the Business of Business podcast? Entrepreneurship is something magical, but I do not believe it's for everyone. And Dad, when you're talking about entrepreneurship, we're not talking about everyone going out, opening a storefront entrepreneurship, right? There's other ways to quote unquote work for yourself or have control over your future and your finances. A lot of commission-based industries that you can be your own boss and have a mentor. There's lots of opportunities out there. So we're speaking to all those people. But what we do find is that we have a lot of passionate entrepreneurs that get kicked down from the business part of it. And I think our last guest said it too, and I say it all the time. I'm a hairdresser. I'm not an insurance agent. I'm not an accountant, and so on and so on. So we have to recognize our strengths and weaknesses, and to bring this podcast together to shine light on those hardships, those challenges, and also all the benefits that you can get from entrepreneurship is really what it's all about. And hopefully to inspire someone to start a business, someone that has maybe been in business for 2 years and feels like giving up, someone that has been in business for 30 years and hit a brick wall and is tired of it. Hopefully we can speak to all different kinds of entrepreneurs, help you along your journey by just sharing our experiences and what we believe in and our culture behind the whole podcast in general.
Right. And I agree with everything that you both said. And I think alluding to, even more to what Jennifer just mentioned, but, at the heart of it, the root of it, it's in the sharing. It's in the, it's a part of who we are as a family and a family of entrepreneurials, that there is an ultimate need and a real, I think that we feel a real responsibility for giving the advice, giving the input, giving the ideas, putting this out into the universe. Because again, none of us are doing this because we're making money from it, right? We're not doing this because we have, sponsors who are, paying us to shout them out, or to, we're doing this because, there's a need that we see out in the world that, by sharing our experiences and sharing how we're living through things and, how we're overcoming certain obstacles, um, there's a real satisfaction in that. And also, when you bring people together, when I used to do the Think Pink Mixer, I would always say there's something about when you get people together to share their experiences, even if they're from opposite ends of the spectrum, there's some type of commonality that someone can take away from, that's going to give them motivation or inspiration, that's going to give them some piece of advice that maybe they wouldn't get anywhere else. And so I think at the root of doing this podcast, um, there's that need to, really just share with what we know, share what the failures have been, share what the successes have been, and hopefully, people will take nuggets of that and, really be able to do something with it. So before we wrap this last season 1 podcast up, any last thought?
No, but we're open for paid sponsors.
Yes,
And,
we are.
we are open. I mean, we definitely are enjoying doing these and providing, this out to people, but nothing wrong with making money. So
Nothing wrong with making money.
we are open for sponsors and, whatever else may come along. So I guess I just appreciate, again, being, having my daughters be part of this and doing this as a family. It's that is very special. So I've enjoyed season 1, very much looking forward to season 2.
Yeah, I'm grateful for the opportunity. It's a lot of fun. Again, I get excited to record and listen and just have this new experience and opportunity. And we're just grateful for our listeners. Listen, everyone, shout out to everyone at the salon, my employees, just my personal circle that supports the podcast. I'm super grateful and appreciative of you guys. I love when you come in the salon and drop little nuggets that you hear from the podcast. So I just love it. So thank you again for always supporting us.
It's definitely been a great season. I want to make sure that we thank Janet, who is the producer of all things.
That's right.
Janet,
Thank you, Janet.
100% could not do it without her. We can record, but everything else, getting it up on the platforms, creating Facebook page, just really making this even more enjoyable for us is all due to Janet. And per usual, anything that the Dempseys do to come together to bring value, I'm always grateful to be a part of. So grateful to Jack's, idea and vision, and just push to just say, let's just start it. Let's just do it. We got to just do it and go from there. History repeats itself. It's all working out great. Like Jennifer said, thank you to all of our listeners. Thank you to everybody that hits download. We know that you have many, many options when it comes to podcasts, and we want to thank you guys for choosing us, for downloading us, for sharing us on all your social media platforms. We look forward to season 2. We've already brainstormed, but if you all have ideas, if you all have any input, anything that you particularly want us to talk about, want to share about, please go to our Facebook page, follow us there, leave us a comment, get in touch with us. And, we are happy and eager to hear about what you guys want to hear about. We want to hear about what you guys are struggling with that maybe we can give you some insight on. And so with all of that said, thank you for season 1. We look forward to talking to you all in season 2. And until we can be together again, please be kind to each other, be kind to yourself, and we'll see you in our next episode. Bye.
We want to thank you for listening today. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Leave us a positive review. And we want to say thank you to our sponsors, Dempsey Weiss and Associates and J.Faith Hair Studio.